3 cursed places you shouldn't visit. Number 3. Built in 1829, Eastern State Penitentiary introduced a strict solitary confinement model meant to force repentance. Prisoners lived, ate, and worked alone in stone cells with tiny skylights and almost no human contact. Cold winters, strict silence rules, and harsh punishments turned the facility into a psychological pressure cooker. Even notorious inmates like Al Capone described the isolation as unbearable. By the 1940s, guards and workers were reporting strange experiences, shadows slipping across empty corridors, whispers coming from sealed cell blocks, and a persistent feeling of being watched. Some visitors described figures standing at the far end of a hall, only for them to dissolve when approached. Over the decades, investigators, TV crews, and paranormal researchers all highlighted the same patterns: movement where there should be none, sounds without sources, and sudden drops in temperature inside abandoned wings. Today, the prison operates as a historic site with daily tours and Halloween events, but many areas still feel untouched by time. The Gothic fortress architecture, combined with documented suffering and strict isolation, gives the penitentiary a reputation that isn't just paranormal, it's psychological. Number 2. Edinburgh Castle stands on an ancient volcanic rock and has been the center of battles, executions, sieges, and political conflict for nearly 1,000 years. It served as a royal residence, a military fortification, and a prison for captured soldiers, especially during the Napoleonic Wars. Diseases, starvation, and violence created a long, violent timeline within its stone walls. The deeper one goes into the structure, the more its age becomes impossible to ignore. Damp chambers, narrow stairways, and long echoing halls shaped by centuries of trauma. Reports of unusual activity stretch back through generations. Visitors have seen soldiers in outdated uniforms, heard drumming in empty corridors, or felt something tugging at their clothing inside sealed rooms. Restoration workers refuse to stay in certain areas alone after experiencing sudden chills, whispers behind them, or the sense of someone breathing over their shoulder. Tour groups often report strange lights or shapes appearing in photos, especially in old prison spaces or underground tunnels that once held plague victims and political prisoners. Today, the castle is one of Scotland's biggest attractions, hosting daytime tours and nighttime ghost walks. But unlike many haunted tours, the stories here emerge from documented history and consistent testimony. People stepping inside describe the same pattern of unease regardless of the season or crowd size. The castle doesn't feel abandoned or empty, it feels crowded, as if too many footprints have been left there across too many centuries. Number 1. Poveglia is a tiny island in the Venetian lagoon with one of the darkest histories in Europe. For centuries, it served as a quarantine zone during plague outbreaks, receiving ships filled with infected passengers who were brought there to die. Mass graves and cremation pits were used repeatedly, and local historians estimate over 100,000 people were buried or burned on the island. The soil itself is said to be mixed with human ash, creating an environment where the past literally forms part of the ground. In the 20th century, a psychiatric hospital was built on Poveglia. Although many of the stories about its doctors and patients drift toward folklore, records confirm mistreatment and harsh conditions. Fishermen reported hearing screams or bells coming from the island despite it being uninhabited. Illegal visitors described overwhelming dread as soon as they stepped onto the shore. Some heard footsteps inside ruined buildings, while others reported loud impacts or voices echoing through empty hallways. Even without supernatural explanations, the site's decay and silence create an atmosphere that's difficult to describe. Access has been restricted for years due to safety concerns and unstable structures. which only increased its reputation as Italy's Forbidden Island. A recent attempt to convert Poveglia into a public space has moved slowly, partly due to the logistics and partly due to local discomfort toward reopening a place associated with so much death. Whether or not one believes in curses, Poveglia's history is so saturated with tragedy that stepping onto the island feels like disturbing something that was never meant to be touched.
This is just the beginning. The Forsaken is a new channel, and your presence gives life to the cult. Join us for more disturbing stories every week. Until then, rest. We'll meet again in another tale.